We're going to see how his body works to get rid of that heat, even when he stays in a very hot environment. And there's some tricks that we're going to do to try and manipulate that process that could be quite interesting. So are you psyched for this?
I'm not nervous at all on the thermoregulatory machine.
So where's Corey now? Well, here we are back in Craig Heller's lab. And last time we were here, we cooled Corey down. So this time we're going to heat him up, because they go both ways here in the Heller lab. They study hypothermia, so low body temperature, and hyperthermia, high body temperature. And so instead of cooling him down, we're going to heat him up in the hot room today. And we're going to see what happens to his physical performance on the treadmill. And then we're going to see how his body works to get rid of that heat, even when he stays in a very hot environment. And there's some tricks that we're going to do to try and manipulate that process that could be quite interesting. We're going to put you in a military thermal insulation suit. So this is what they use when there are chemical spills, and it has some charcoal in it that absorbs the toxic fumes. And so that is a partially insulating suit. So we're trying to keep that body temperature in when you're on the treadmill. You're not going to be able to conduct or radiate or have convection off your skin surfaces while you're walking on the treadmill. And then you'll walk until you get your core temperature up to 39 degrees. And then after that, we will clamp your temperature there by closing off what surfaces you have left that are exposed. So your face, your hands, your feet. So we'll clamp those off, and we'll see how it feels for you to maintain that core temperature at 39 degrees. And then we'll see what happens when we remove those, even if you're still in the hot environment. We'll be measuring your core temperature like last time with the esophageal probe. We'll measure your skin temperature with the skin probe, and we'll measure your heart rate with the heart rate monitor. 3 monitors will be able to see how you're doing physiologically. And then we'll throw in some cognitive performance tests that you do before you get hot, when you're hot, and on the other side. And we'll see whether that core temperature change will impact your cognitive performance and your coordination on the test.
Starting to get a little nervous as I put all these on. Not really quite sure what Dr. Friedlander might have in store for me.
Here we go, into the hot room. Wow, so last time we were in here it was 40 degrees, and now it's 104. Okay, so go ahead and start the treadmill.
So, 3.5 miles an hour?
Yeah. Do we have a core temperature reading? Feels good, huh? Just like home. This is a protocol that they use in this lab to study the Avicor cooling devices. So they get military personnel and students in a variety of different populations up to 39 degrees, and then they see how they can manipulate the cool down process. There's the little temperature and humidity marker over there, 22%, 103 degrees. Woo, toasty.
158.
58, little cardiovascular drift. You're spiking at 38.3. You're looking a little sweaty. How you feeling?
I'm starting to sweat.
Yeah?
It's hot.
All for the good of science.
I love you, students.
Does this make
He's doing this for you.
With soldiers?
Okay, so you peaked up high enough, but we're making sure that it's not just
stabilizing at 39.
Yeah, we're going to get sort of mean at 39, and then we'll let you get off. All right, 15 seconds. You can start bringing yourself down.
Ready?
Get my feet out of the way. Pièce de résistance.
Oh.
Careful of the esophageal probe. Can you make sure it goes down over? Oh boy.
It's another day in the life. Oh.
Okay, so we're going to see if your temperature will stay just where it is.
Yeah. We've clamped.
We've clamped. We've clamped the core. Well, we're clamping his temperature. So anytime you lock a physiologic parameter in at a certain level, you've clamped it. They actually developed this system because they were trying to figure out the effect of temperature on cognitive performance. But if you take people out of the treadmill when you get them to the right temperature, their core temperature falls. And so there's no way to stabilize that to see cognitive function. So they lock them in, and then you can do a whole series of tests and measure the effect it had. So that's where this protocol came from.
It looks like you might be stabilizing.
You are stabilizing, yeah. The sweat's starting to come through your baklava.
My baklava.
Or your ski hat. Elite athletes who run a marathon, for example, in the heat can get their core temperature up to about 40 with no ill effects. But that's often people think that that is the high limit of physiologic capacity. So at that point, you start to have cognitive impairment of performance. Your body's trying to protect you from getting your body much higher so you don't denature your proteins. So rarely do people get their temperature above 40 degrees. And so we didn't want to take them all the way to the top, but 39 is still up there. but not uncommon for athletes to get into that range. So you've been clamped now at the same temperature for yikes, for about 15 minutes. So now we're going to take off the gear. So even though the room is hotter than his core temperature right now, we'll see whether he can use his thermoregulatory capacity to drop his core temperature down.
Big drop came when he got
It's a
off
pretty big
the
relief
bike.
already.
Treadmill, Staring at Corey, waiting for something to happen. His core temperature while he's on the treadmill walking, going up, 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 reached a peak there. He got off the treadmill, there was an initial drop, and then we covered him up, and he sat there and we clamped the temperature at about 38.8. Once he stabilized there, he was all the same temperature, uncovered his hands, his feet, his face, those venous anastomoses that serve as heat shunts in the body. The thing is that in this particular case, he is in a room that's probably warmer than his body temperature. So we are seeing now a fall in core temperature, and it's interesting to try and figure out how that's happening. The core temperature is dropping now, even though it's warmer outside than inside his body. And now the camera crew is sweating profusely too. Okay, so it's been 23 minutes since he stopped exercising, and he's just been sitting here the whole time. His heart rate is still at 162. So you are working hard, a little cardiovascular drift there to try and get rid of that heat. Your body's looking for a way out for that heat. Put his hand in cool water, see if we can get some of that cooled blood back to the core. Ah, your body's saying, cool me down, save my proteins, save my brain power, and then adapt for next time so it's not as painful. Restore that homeostasis through a whole series of adaptations. And you're going down again, so you had sort of plateaued again when you took off the gloves and everything, and now you're starting to fall again.
Easy to see.
What a good looking curve.
It's
And
so
now
beautiful.
it's plummeting.
So Vin, what's more beautiful to you? A fit, in shape, 30-year-old woman, or that curve?
Data.
Corey's going to do his last cognitive performance test. His core temperature's come quite a bit down. I'm going to see how he does. Okay, so next thing, we're going to get your body weight.
Okay.
See how much you lost, and then we'll give you something to drink. Feels good out here. Corey, he deserves it.
Thank you.
Right.
So Corey, now that you've survived both the cold module and the heat module, which was harder for you?
Well, I suppose they were very different, opposite ends of the spectrum. I would say the cold module was harder for me. I think part of it, maybe I'm more just mentally accustomed to heat, and so that wasn't as brutal. Maybe it had something to do with the temperature ranges that we chose to hit, but I would say I feel like I was cognitively affected less. I'm going to recover faster after the warm module.
I think in general, people's bodies are more used to going up in temperature than they are down. So it's very rare that you let your body get down to 34.5, which is what we did in the cold module, whereas athletes regularly get their temperature up as high as you did during exercise, and so especially as an athlete yourself, you're probably more used to that feeling, not usually clamping at that temperature, but sort of less unusual, and you have more mechanisms in your body to dissipate that heat once you get up there than you do the other way in the cold direction.